God loves to do the extraordinary in the midst of the ordinary. Jesus was a small-town guy, born in Bethlehem, raised in Nazareth, ministering in ordinary villages, and Chuck and Mary Terrill have followed in his footsteps. Chuck and Mary grew up small-town Kansas kids, fishing in the Little Arkansas River, watching domino games at Mike's Barbershop, and buying soft drinks at the Rexall drugstore counter. But not all small towns are Mayberry, and life isn't always a Norman Rockwell painting. Neither had an ideal home life growing up, and by their teenage years they were eager to leave for something better. They got married young, and those early years together as a couple were hard. Challenges, relational ups and downs. Would their marriage make it? It was a rocky, messy start. But God really does do the extraordinary, and through the ministry of a local pastor, they were welcomed into First Christian Church of Valley Center, Kansas. And in that little ordinary church, their marriage was healed, and they heard God's call to ministry. In 1984, Chuck enrolled at Ozark Bible College at the age of 28. He worked second shift at Hudson Foods, shoveling chicken and turkey feet out of semi-trailers all night, just to make enough money to make ends meet. But he was always on time for Wilbur Field's 7 a.m. Old Testament history class. And even after working all night, who could fall asleep learning about the Wadi Bezor and Dirty Doeg the Edomite from Brother Fields? At Ozark, Chuck got his first opportunity to preach in a ministry at a little church in Mulberry, Kansas, attendance 27. Just an ordinary place, but Chuck was determined to do something extraordinary. Now, Chuck is a great storyteller. He's authored 4 books and hundreds of articles in publications like Guideposts and Christian Standard, and he tells a story about that first ministry. He says, "I was young. It was my first church, and I didn't feel like the leaders were with me, so to prove my merit, I resolved to be deep, theological. I would show these Midwestern septuagenarians that I had what it takes. My sermons were punctuated with Greek and words like pneumatology and soteriology. Still, it seemed I hadn't gained their respect. But one Wednesday Bible study, a small breakthrough occurred. The lesson that evening was about love, and I explained the 3 Greek words for love, phileo, agape, and eros. And then the moment of truth. Who can give me a specific example of one of these kinds of love?" Nobody answered. They just sat there and stared at me. I repeated the question, still no one. Then my own little daughter raised her hand. I felt so proud. My 4-year-old girl was about to put these people to shame. She knew what phileo, agape, and eros were. "Sarah," I said, "can you give us an example of one of these kinds of love?" She nodded her head confidently. "Sometimes," she paused, "sometimes my mommy takes a shower with my daddy." I thought I was going to die. My face flushed red. My wife covered her face in her hands. And then it happened. One of the septuagenarians slapped his hand down on the table and let out a guffaw. He laughed so hard that all the others' shocked expressions were instantly transformed into unrestrained laughter. Little Sarah, who had started it all, rocked back and forth in her chair and clapped her chubby little hands in glee. I knew I had lost. The lesson was over. I managed to say a closing prayer, interrupted by giggles, and then I waited shamefaced for the group to leave. They didn't leave, though. They stayed. They talked and laughed some more. I couldn't believe it. I didn't understand. Then Mr. Septuagenarian came over and put his arm around me. He laughed again and said, "I've been telling everybody that you was human. They didn't believe me. But now that the truth is out, just relax. You don't have to try to impress us. Everybody here loves you. Just be yourself." He patted me on the back and left to go rib my wife some more. And that day, that church opened the door for me to a lifetime of authentic, real ministry. God loves to use ordinary. And yes, Chuck went on to get his doctorate and teach at Manhattan Christian College for 2 years, but mostly, God has called the Terrills to ordinary small-town churches. And he has used Chuck and Mary, ordinary folks with real flaws and real faith, to do extraordinary things. Over 5 years in Mulberry, Kansas, that little church grew from 27 to 97. In 14 years at the Haverhill Christian Church in Haverhill, Kansas, the Terrills helped build a new 7,000 square foot building, a youth center, and a thriving congregation that grew from 54 to 230. They were called back to their home church, Valley Center Christian Church, and in 13 years there, Chuck saw the congregation double from 109 to 230, each ministry marked by prayer and outreach, financial growth, and spiritual health. Just a few months ago, the Terrills moved once more from Valley Center to First Christian Church in Cassville, Missouri, a small church of 25, ready to once again see God take the ordinary and do something extraordinary. Chuck and Mary, God has used your faithfulness to produce fruitfulness, and we are grateful for you. Well done, good and faithful servants, and on behalf of the entire Ozark Christian College family, congratulations.